Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. What are companion videos? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. To see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take the second half of the show to take your live comments and questions through the tip link. However, we often don't have enough time to get through all the questions that get sent in, especially lately. We've been getting backed up a little bit, especially with us having to cut our shows short, and I'll talk about that in a second. So what I like to do is, I don't want to make you guys wait too long to get those questions answered, so I gather them up and we address them here on companion videos. Now, if you guys have been watching the John Campea Show lately, it has been just a clown show the last week or so, because we have just about every show we've done, we've either had to cancel the show or cut the show short, because at some point our stream upload just stops being received by YouTube. And it looked like it was a YouTube issue. YouTube thinks they fixed the problem, but then it happened again today, just when we thought everything was fixed. Now they're saying it's my internet service provider's problem, my ISP. So I've got my ISP coming over tomorrow to take a look at things. So I don't know, guys. I am desperately trying to look. All I know is that I'm moving in how many days? I'm moving in 16 days. No, yes, no, 10, 16 days. I am moving in 16 days, and we will have a brand new, fully loaded business class internet solution going into the new house, into the new studio. And we should have no problems then. All I got to do is make it through the next few days. Anyway, you're not here to hear me talk about my problems with my internet connection to YouTube. You're here to see us talk about some fun topics in the world of movies, streaming, all sorts of good stuff. Oh, and by the way, Ann and I sat down and watched the first 3 episodes of WandaVision today. It is still under review embargo until tomorrow morning, so I will talk about it on tomorrow's show. But yeah, for now, just let you know that I did see the first 3 episodes, and I can't say whether I enjoyed it or not. I'm not allowed to say anything. It's under embargo, but tune in on tomorrow's show, and we'll talk about it then. Okay, let's now get to the stuff you came here to talk about, which is your topics and questions. And we're going to start getting caught up here with Andy Hong, who writes, and this is what we ended earlier today's show on, but that's when the internet was going nutty, so I want to make sure we address it. Andy writes, Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester just won the first Critics' Choice Super Awards for Best Actor in a Horror Series, beating out Jonathan Majors and Michael K. Williams from Lovecraft Country, and even his co-star, Jared Padalecki. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'd like to pretend that I'm happier about that than I actually am. The Critics' Choice Super Awards are a joke. All right, let's just call it. And I have a lot of friends who are part of the Critics Association. And I really have, over the years, really liked the Critics' Choice Awards. But this whole Critics' Choice Super Awards is really a joke. I mean, it's a condescending thing saying, none of these shows are good enough for our real awards, so we'll create a nice little kiddie table for you guys. Isn't that adorable? We'll have the big people table over here for the real awards, and then we'll create this nice little kiddie table over. It's a complete joke. This is just the Critics Association desperately pleading for people to watch their show. That's all it is. It's nothing more than that. And so I don't really give it any credence whatsoever. Now, you know, I'm all about Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki and Supernatural. I'm all about it. I wish I could say I was more excited about it, but I'm really not, because it doesn't mean anything. And really, that's an award that was given to Jensen as a lifetime achievement. I think this year it probably should have gone, if it was a real award, to Jonathan Majors. But whatever. Hey, something that brings positive attention to Supernatural, I'm all good with, because, you know, I love the show. All right, next up. Connor Darian writes, hey, John, really enjoy your show. Thank you so much, Connor. I appreciate that. Like you, The Acolyte is one of my most anticipated Star Wars projects in the works. Supposedly, it will have a female lead. That's what they've confirmed. I would like to see Darth Talon or Lumia make a canon debut. Very popular Legend Sith thoughts. Honestly, I'd rather not. I'd honestly rather not. Now, that's not because I have a problem with those characters per se, but I really want to see Star Wars get into the idea of creating new characters. Creating new characters and adventures and places for these stories to happen. Now, look, I'm not against it. You know, like, hey, they're bringing in they're bringing in Thrawn. I like Thrawn. I like Thrawn very much. But I don't know. I don't want everything to do. Now bring in this character we already know. Now bring in this character we already know. You know what I mean? Again, I'm not against it. I was talking about, somebody wrote in a question earlier today asking about, wouldn't it be great if Star Wars did a young Yoda series and looking at the early adventures of Yoda? And I was like, for me, no, I wouldn't vote for that. Now, don't get me wrong. If they did it, I would watch it. Of course, it's Star Wars, but I would really rather see them put their... One of the things that excites me about Acolyte is that it could be something completely brand new. Something completely fresh and completely brand new. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But again, I'm not against those other things. If you're going to give me a vote, and nobody's giving me a vote, but if you're going to give me a vote on this, I like to see it be all clean slate, totally fresh, all brand new characters. That's kind of what I myself personally would go for. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, next up. Sergeant Ward writes, list of things HBO Max did wrong. Number 1, bad title. I agree with that. Like, it just created a lot of confusion for people. You have HBO, HBO Go, HBO Now, and now you got HBO Max. It was a bad title. It was a bad title. Anyway, 2, being too expensive too soon. I disagree with that. I think, seriously, when you look at what you get, $15 is a value. Listen, if you go to a club one night and order 1 vodka, you're spending more than that. And for that $15, you are getting a tremendous library of excellent content. Because you're talking about everything, not only that HBO Max has done, you're talking about everything HBO has done. And HBO's content is the top tier. In my opinion, it is the top tier. So to me, I don't think what they launched with was unreasonable at all. I think it was I still to this day believe it's a very reasonable price when you consider what you're getting for it. But that's just me. 4, waiting too long to be international. That's really outside of their control. It's just like there's a lot of territories that Disney Plus still isn't in. Look, there's a lot of things that average people who aren't in that industry don't understand about territorial rights and licensing rights and all that kind of stuff. Everybody thinks it's just easy. Oh, just press a button and boom, you're in Istanbul. It's a lot more complicated than that. So I don't hold that against them at all. Disney Plus had the same kind of struggle. Number 5, not having a Mandalorian level show. Again, that depends who you ask. I mean, a lot of people consider Watchmen to be a better show than Mandalorian. There are a lot of people out there who consider Lovecraft Country to be a better show than Mandalorian. And that's not even going into their library, because HBO has got like 10 or more shows that are much better than The Mandalorian. I say this as a major Mandalorian fan. I love Mandalorian, but yeah, I wouldn't say that. Anyway, 6, focusing on catch-up rather than quality. Completely agree with that. Am I missing anything? Yeah, I agree with number 1. Number 2 and 3. Oh, no, number 3 was not having Roku right away. Oh, completely agree. Not only Roku, but they weren't on the second most popular streaming platform, which was the Amazon Fire Stick either. So they weren't on the number 1 or the number 2 streaming platforms. What do you expect is going to happen? Like, somebody should have lost their job over that. You had a couple of years to know where you were going, to know that you needed to be on those platforms, and you had years to work out a deal. Years. The fact that they launched not on those is unforgivable. It starts them behind the 8 ball right away. It was a terrible, terrible move. So I completely agree with you. It was a bad title. Completely agree with you about them not being on Roku right away. I completely agree that they are absolutely focused on playing catch up right now than anything else. But I disagree with you about it being too expensive. I don't think you can hold it against them about the international market thing. And I don't think you can hold it against them for not having a Mandalorian level show. I mean, they got excellent, excellent content, but they have made mistakes. And we talked about this the other day on the show. After Game of Thrones, which was like record setting in every way, shape, or form. And like even the finale had record numbers. But after that, the platform, they lost 51% of their key demographic and almost 40% of their overall viewership after Game of Thrones ended. And they have, I mean, that put things, finding that out has put a lot of how HBO Max has been conducted into context. They're desperate. They're completely desperate, and they are trying to play catch up. Anyway, next up, Dark Knight Rises writes, John, Thinking about what Robert said recently in terms of a set with close quarters and tight deadlines. With the current political divide, is it ever a source of tension between co-stars with divergent viewpoints? I don't think so. I mean, listen, we've all heard many stories about actors on set who do not get along. We've all heard of those stories. But I think most actors know you got to be professional. You're going to be on sets with people who have different points of view than you and other things. What does that have to do with your job? Nothing. So you can get on set, work with each other, do your job. And that should never be. So I've personally never heard of any problems on a set because, you know, Andy Garcia had political differences with Meg Ryan on a set. You know, I've never heard anything like that. And I would assume that the vast majority of actors are professionals. They know when they go to work, they're going to work. They may not like each other for other reasons too, but I'm just saying I've personally never heard of that situation. So that's just me. Good question though, Dark Knight. All right. Dark Knight Rises also writes, just wondering, do some major film stars have foundations that one can donate into? Okay, let me try this again. Just wondering, do some major film stars have foundations that one can donate to in appreciation or support of the star? I don't know what you mean. Like, does Ryan Reynolds have a GoFundMe? I don't think so. You know, if that's what you mean. Or if you mean, do certain stars have, say, like charitable foundations that you could, I'm sure most of them do. The best thing I would recommend is going to Google, let's say for argument's sake, your favorite star, is Meg Ryan. Just use that as a name. If you're interested in that, I would go and look up Meg Ryan charitable organizations or charitable work, and you can probably find out what it is they support if you want to donate to a good cause in their name. That could be a way to do it, but I mean, that's not information I carry around off the top of my head, but that's a good question, man. Thanks for asking. All right, next stuff. Mischievous Gremlin, I love that username, writes, 1 of 3. Hey, John. First off, I want to say I love your dogs. Yeah, people saw my dogs in a recent video I put up on the channel. Thank you for that. Shadow and Lily say thank you. Somebody will probably bring this up already. Who knows? There was a casting call for the Sparrow squad, which will be the new squad that will be introduced in the Umbrella Academy Season 3. The cast is interesting, especially this newcomer named Existential Dread, including Psychronium Cube, who will play Christopher, who is Sparrow number 7. He will be telekinetic cube of unknown origin that can turn the room into freezing cold and induce fear. What are your thoughts about all this, and are you surprised that the new Sparrow group wasn't going to be the different Umbrella Academy playing different roles? I have no thoughts. I have no thoughts. Now, I've heard that, oh, what's her name? Oh, I'm freezing on her name now. Hold a second. Let me look her up here first. I'm going to look up Big Hero 6 because I know her name starts with an E, and I'm freezing on it for some reason. I know that Genesis. No, it wasn't E. It was Genesis. Genesis Rodriguez, I believe I heard, is going to be in that Sparrow Academy, if I heard that right. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong about that, but I thought I heard that. Anyway, I really like Genesis Rodriguez. She's great. Anyway, main thing is somebody else. That being said, no, I wasn't surprised because I heard that in the graphic novel, like the Sparrow Academy is something that comes in the comics. Like that's something in the comics. So they're just kind of following the basic outline of the comics there. So that wasn't a surprise. What they do or don't have as far as characters go, I don't really care about, to be honest with you. Because if you had told me going into Umbrella Academy Season 1, about, okay, you're going to have one character does this, and this. I don't know if I would have thought that sounded any good, but it's all about execution, and it was fantastic. I trust, you know, I think it's Dark Horse that is the production company behind this. You know, one of the producers of Umbrella Academy is in my documentary. He's also in my Star Wars role-playing game group. Just a little thing there. His name's Chris Tung. I trust those guys. I mean, that show is excellent. They put out 2 seasons of that show that have both been fantastic. So whatever bonky, wild, crazy things they say are going to be part of Season 3, I completely trust them. I'm just on board. The first season was great. The second season, I might even have liked more. I mean, there was a few things I would have changed about season 2. I definitely would have given them a little bit more action sequences. A couple of the members of the Umbrella Academy had no action sequences in the entire show, which is unfortunate, but that notwithstanding. I love that show. I think it's absolutely dynamite. I mean, Umbrella Academy along with Doom Patrol and The Boys is just this triumphant of glory that we get to watch as fans of the genre. You know what I mean right now? And so whatever they're going to do with Umbrella Academy season 3, I'm completely on board with. Doesn't matter what it sounds like to me. They've executed season 1 perfectly. They executed season 2 perfectly. So I got no reason to be anything but optimistic about season 3. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Mischievous Gremlin. All right. Next up. Donnie Yasu writes, "Hey, John, I hope your new home is treating you and Ann well. Well, we're not in the new home yet. It's still being renovated, but we are moving in 16 days. Very excited about that. I can't believe WandaVision is happening this week. It feels like the world's longest marketing campaign, true. Though due to no fault of its own, I'm just happy to get my first MCU fix in over a year. And I am, first of all, when I realized I was going to be able to watch it today, I got very excited. And so Ann and I sat down this afternoon to watch the first 3 episodes. They're short. I'm not reviewing it, but I'm just telling you, the episodes are short. But I can't say anything. I have to honor the review embargo. I'm not going to break anything. I'm not going to tell you a single thought about it, except to say I was very excited to watch it, and I'm looking forward to you guys watching it. Ann and I will do a spoiler review every Friday, just like we did for Mandalorian. We're going to do a spoiler review every Friday, open spoiler discussion for WandaVision every Friday. So keep your eyes open for that. I think it's going to be 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Keep your eyes open for that. Good to hear from you, Donnie. All right, next up. Tommy Oliver writes, "Hey, John. Since we know Warner Brothers is recasting Batman in the DCEU, which actor would be a good fit to play the Ben Affleck version?" I don't care. The Ben Affleck version of Batman. Any good actor doesn't apply here, in my opinion. It absolutely does. Let's assume they want to stay true to the Batman versus Superman Batman. Thanks. It really is. It still just applies. Any great actor. Again, here's the fundamental problem. We can't assume anything that they're going to do with this Batman. Any assumptions right now, especially understanding the state the DCU's in right now, right? You can't make any assumptions because, Wonder Woman in Batman versus Superman said she's stayed hidden away from mankind and humanity for 100 years. Well, guess what? Wonder Woman 84 comes out. She's running around in malls and, all the, there's that. And Batman versus Superman and in Justice League, she's never gotten over Steve Trevor. But hey, then along comes Wonder Woman 84. Guess what? In the 80s, she did get over Steve Trevor. So we can't assume anything. And that includes, we can't assume we know exactly what they're going to do with this Batman. They could make this Batman a very different Batman. I mean, listen, to be clear, the Batman we got in Batman versus Superman and the one we got in Justice League were basically 2 different Batmen. They really were. And so what they will do with Batman once they recast him, who's to say? So I say all that to remind us as fans not to set any expectations. They're going to write their Batman a certain way. And then only they will know how they're writing that Batman. And since only they know how this Batman is written, only they will have a good idea about what kind of actor would be right to play him. You and I have no clue. You and I have no clue. Like, if you had said going into Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, what about Heath Ledger? Brokeback Mountain Boy? Nobody picked Heath Ledger. Nobody. But because all of us have a vision of what Joker should be like. Christopher Nolan gave us a completely different Joker than we've ever seen before. It was a very different kind of Joker, yet still very much a true Joker, but very different from any Joker we've ever considered or ever expected. And knowing his Joker, he knew that Heath Ledger brought something that was a good match for that Joker. Again, the bottom line is, until we know what they're doing with this character, we can't possibly have a legitimate, real thought about who should play that role. That's all I'm saying. So that's why whenever anybody asks me which X actor should play X role, I always say, hey, listen, as long as they get somebody who we know is a talented performer. If you get somebody we know is a talented actor, then I'll trust you with the rest that that actor is a good fit for the role, because only you know if it's a good fit for the role or not. All I care about is, are they a talented actor? And if you cast a talented actor, you're already ahead of the game. So you can say it doesn't apply, but I will stick with that. I will stick with that I just want to see them hire a talented actor. As long as it's a talented actor, like Ben Affleck is, I'll be happy. And then we'll see. We'll see if that actor was a good fit or not once we get a taste of it on the screen. That's just my thought on that, Tommy. Thanks for writing in, man. All right. Felipe, the microphone, writes, John, thoughts on Chris Stuckman coming out as pansexual in his new video? Honestly, and I appreciate you're probably asking that question from a position of respect. I appreciate that. But honestly, why should anybody have an opinion about somebody else's personal life? Why should anybody have an opinion or have thoughts about somebody else's personal private life? I don't know why anybody feels they have the right to have an opinion or thoughts about somebody else's personal private life. And it is also my policy here. I don't talk about other YouTubers here, but specifically. I don't talk about other YouTubers specifically. I just don't do that on my show. So I'm not going to give you my thoughts on his video. All I will tell you is this. To me, there are two genders. The gender of decent human being and the gender of asshole. I know Chris Stuckman. Chris Stuckman is he belongs to the gender of decent human being. That's all I care about. I mean, look, I don't care. And maybe it's just the Italian in me. I don't give a shit if somebody's heterosexual, bisexual, neosexual, transsexual, pansexual, whatever. I don't care. I really don't care any more than somebody says, John, Chris Stuckman just said he likes eating potato salad. What are your thoughts? I don't give a shit if he likes eating potato salad. And it's not my place to have an opinion about his personal life. All I know is he's a decent human being, and that's all I care about. So listen, and again, I know you're asking the question from a place of respect. I am not, please take note. I don't think there's anything wrong with you asking the question. I just hope you understand why I don't feel so inclined to answer it. I don't talk about other YouTubers. I certainly don't talk about other people's personal lives. So yeah, I'm going to take a pass on that with all due respect and understanding that you probably were asking the question from a position of respect. So we'll just leave it at that. Thanks for writing in, Felipe. All right, next up. Preston Lyons writes, hey, John, the way you feel about Man of Steel is the same way I feel about The Amazing Spider-Man. If you're talking about the first one with Andrew Garfield, I love that movie. I think it's great. I mean, it's not, to me, not one of the top 10 greatest comic book films of all time, but I really like that film. A very underrated movie and truly spectacular film. I will never understand why it's disliked so much. You know what? It's actually not that disliked. Now, the second one really is. Hold on a second. Let me look this up. The Amazing Spider-Man Rotten Tomatoes. I really don't think it was all that disliked. I mean, when you go over there, now granted, these weren't verified. The audience score here wasn't a verified audience score, but if you go over to Rotten Tomatoes, and if I do this properly, I should be able to bring it up. Yeah, if you go over to Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 72% critic rating, 77% audience rating. Again, this is before they built in the verified audience rating. So take that audience rating with a grain of salt, but still 72% critic rating, 77% audience rating. It's really generally pretty liked. Now, the second one is a completely different story. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's a bit of a different story. And I don't think The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the complete, again, car wreck that some people make it out to be. I think it has some definitely redeemable things, but it's definitely a massive step down from the first one. But yeah, man, you and me both. I really do appreciate that one too, Preston. Thanks for bringing it up. All right, next up. Captain Blue Pants writes, one of two. Netflix's Dark is a fantastic example of a show/film that moves past the time travel tropes that you dislike. It shows time travel is by no means the easy way to solve anything, and the plot is so beautiful, intricate, never lazy, easily one of the best examples of its use. That being said, I've known you long enough to know when the interest is just not there. I recommend your viewers give it a try. Whole show is only 30 episodes in total. The dubbing is pretty good too if the subtitles are tricky. Listen, I have never heard anything but good things about Dark. The Netflix series. I've never heard one person tell me they didn't like it. Now, I did sit down and watch the first episode. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I liked it, but I just never got around to watching episode 2. You know what I mean? One of these days I will. Because again, I've heard nothing but glowing, great, fantastic things about it. I'll just be honest, the first episode didn't really hook me. And by the way, it is my belief that it is not the audience member's job to hang in there with the show. It's the show's job to get you hooked. It's not your you don't owe the show anything. You don't owe it 5 episodes or whatever. It is the show's responsibility. The onus is on them to hook you. And while I enjoyed the first episode, I just never felt this. You know, sometimes you watch a show and like episode 1 ends and you can't hit the next button fast enough. You just got to see the next episode immediately. I just never felt that drive. But from everything I'm hearing about it, if I do get into it, I will start smashing that next button to see the next one. So I will get around to it at some point. I will. It's taking me longer because I did try the first one. It didn't completely hook me, but I will keep going. I will keep going eventually. So you're not alone, Captain Blue Pants, in making that recommendation. All right. A-Train writes, I think it's way too early to guess the best MCU movie this year. I agree with Spider-Man, but we're only... Let me try this again. I think it's way too early to guess the best MCU movie this year. I agree with Spider-Man, but we're both only saying that because we've had one good movie in Homecoming and one great movie in Far From Home. We've literally seen nothing from Eternals or Shang-Chi. Let's wait. Well, that's... When you're asked to make a prediction, you can't wait to see it. You have to make a prediction. It is never too early to make a prediction. So... You know, I mean, it is, you can, it depends. But in a total cold opening, knowing what we do know, the people involved behind the camera, the source material it's coming from, the stars that are going to be in front of the camera, we can start to make an opinion, as uneducated as it is, where we can make a prediction about what we think is going to be. And I agree. I am going with Spider-Man 3 right now because I have more information on that one. I've seen Homecoming and I've seen Far From Home, so I'm expecting a very good movie. We don't really know what to expect from these other MCU movies coming out. But I'm going to stick with that one right now, A-Train. For now, I'm going to stick I'm going to stick with that one for those exact reasons that you mentioned. Next up is Chris, 1 of 2 writes, Hey John, love all that you do. Thank you so much. I just watched your documentary this morning and loved it. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Great job. Really enjoyed your approach to the impact trailers have on all of us. I hope I'm not being a bother, but have you seen I Am Heath Ledger yet? No, I'm probably not going to see it for a while. Just being honest, I probably won't be able to see it for a while. I'm dying to hear your thoughts on it. If you've seen it, if you have not, it's all good. Again, really enjoyed your film and hope you have a great day, man. Well, thank you so much, Chris. And no, listen, I am interested in it. I am. But between desperately trying to get caught up on all the questions and my regular show that is still taking me, even though my show gets cut short, it's still taking me 10 to 12 hours of prep to put into it to get it ready to go. Between all that and moving, it's been very difficult for me to catch up on anything. Like I'm trying to, I had so many dozens of you guys write in and say I needed to watch that MMA show Kingdom with Frank Grillo and one of the Jonas brothers, can't remember his name. So I'm about 6 episodes into that. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks and I'm only 6 episodes in. I'm just finding it very, very difficult to keep up with that stuff. So I Am Heath Ledger is gonna have to wait a while, probably till well after I get moved into the new house, because that's taking up a lot of my time too. But once I do, I will let you know. And I appreciate you checking out my documentary, man. For those of you who don't know, he's talking about my documentary called Movie Trailers, A Love Story. You can go and find it. Thank you for checking it out. And thank you again for giving me the recommendation on I Am Heath Ledger. Appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Sergeant Ward writes, Hey, John. Did you hear that Ben Affleck is going to direct a movie called Keeper of the Lost Cities, a fantasy young adult novel for Disney? I never thought I'd see Ben Affleck direct something like that. But here's the thing. Ben Affleck is an amazing director. And when you're an amazing director, you can direct anything. Now, not all directors choose to do that. And I'm not saying directors who don't do that aren't amazing. Quentin Tarantino is an amazing director, although he does very much stay in one little Quentin Tarantino sandbox. Like, the moment you start watching a Quentin Tarantino film, you know it's a Quentin Tarantino film, right? But he's great, and I love his movies, most of them. I love most of his movies. But you look at a Spielberg, he can do anything. Fantasy, genre, period piece, war film, biopic, it doesn't matter. He can do anything. If you're a great storyteller, you're a great storyteller. I believe Ben Affleck is a great storyteller. And I think it's exciting that he's branching out and doing something like this. And, you know, even the one film that got bagged on by some people, I think it's called We Are the Night. Is that the full title of it? Anyway, I even thought that was good. It wasn't as good as his other offerings, but I even thought that one was good. And that was his worst one. Ben Affleck is a great director. And great directors can tell anything. So I'm excited to see him getting outside of that comfort zone a little bit at an early stage for, I believe this is his 4th major film. So I'm excited about Sergeant. All right, next up. Sergeant Ward also writes, I know opinions are subjective, but I feel like your hatred of Netflix. I don't have a hatred of Netflix. I like Netflix very, very much. Now, most of their original movies are terrible. Yes. But I have been a Netflix subscriber for longer than probably some people watching this have been alive. They are great at making series and stuff like that. But so I have no hatred of Netflix. I like Netflix very much. They're just have a terrible win-loss record when it comes to making original movies. Anyway, your hatred of Netflix comes down to you just coincidentally, just having some unpopular opinions towards some of their movies. That's not true at all. P.S. Have you seen Beasts of No Nation? Yes. Good movie. Idris Elba probably should have gotten an Academy Award nomination for that. Mudbound, excellent movie. Mudbound is excellent. Outlaw King. Yeah, Outlaw King wasn't so good. That's the one with Chris Pine. And I love Chris Pine. Outlaw King was not very good. But here's the thing. Look at the movies you just mentioned. Beasts of No Nation? That was 2016, 2015. Hold on a second. Let me just look this up. Beasts of No Nation. Let me see if we get here. 2015. That's 6 years ago. That was 6 years ago that happened. I mean, that literally was like forever ago that one came out. So, I mean, here's the thing though. When you look at these movies, right? When you look at these movies and you look at Netflix, and by the way, there are a couple of others that are very, very good. The Irishman was very good. My favorite movie of 2020 is a Netflix original film, Trial of the Chicago 7. It's my favorite movie of the year. And it's a Netflix film. They also put out another really good one in Old Guard. I loved Old Guard. Da 5 Bloods. This was an unusually good year for Netflix movies. But here's the problem. For every Beast of No Nation or Mudbound that you can mention, there's 20 others that sucked. You look at something like Marvel Studios. They have one questionable movie for every 10 really good ones. That's a 10-to-1 ratio of wins to losses. You look at Pixar. They probably make about 7 great movies for every one that's not great. That's like a 7-to-1 win ratio. That's like a solid 7-to-1 win ratio. Netflix's original movies has like a 1-to-8, 1-to-16 win to loss ratio. It's terrible because listen, look, let me bring this up because I remember, let me just see if I can find this because a buddy of mine and I were talking about this the other day. Hold on a second. Netflix. Okay, 1 second here. Okay. Okay, for all those. Okay, great. You want to throw out Beasts of No Nation? Okay, throw out Beasts of No Nation. And these films I'm going to mention are just recent. The Outsider with Jared Leto, who plays the American guy, gets involved in the Japanese Yakuza. I was excited about that because I like Jared Leto. That movie sucked. Sucked. 17% Rotten Tomatoes score. The Kissing Booth sucked with Joey King. 17% Rotten Tomatoes. Special Correspondence, which I was really interested in because it had Eric Bana. I've got a soft spot for Eric Bana. Had Ricky Gervais, all that kind of stuff. Sucked. Vera Farmiga, I think, is in that as well. Anyway, like 16, 17% Rotten Tomatoes rating. Brain on Fire was one I was excited about because it's got Chloe Grace Moretz in it. I never did see it, but I heard it completely sucked. 13% critic rating. The Do-Over, Adam Sandler. I think I watched about 5 minutes of it and my brain hurt. I couldn't take it anymore. Adam Sandler, David Spade, The Do-Over, Netflix original film, 10% critic score. 10%. The After Party with Blair Underwood, 0% critic score. Father of the Year with David Spade, 0% critic score. These are all Netflix original movies. The Kevin James movie, The True Memoirs of an International Assassin, 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Another David Spade, Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider, Luke Wilson's film, The Ridiculous Six, that kind of Western spoof comedy, 0% critic score. And by the way, let's just talk about 2020. Let's just talk about 2020. Okay? We don't have to go any further than that. These are other 2020 original Netflix films. The Ron Howard film, Hillbilly Elegy. I brought this up. Let me bring it up here. Hillbilly Elegy, 26% on that, because that one, yeah, I had a lot of hope for that. Fall from Grace, the Tyler Perry movie, 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Wrong Missy, again, another David Spade and Adam Sandler have a track record here. 33% critic score. The Kissing Booth 2, we just talked about Kissing Booth. I never did watch this one, but same cast, 29% critic score. Fatal Affair with Omar Epps, 18%. I took a pass on this one. I heard it was quite bad. Last Day of American Crime, Anna Brewster, 0% critic rating. Remember, these are all 2020 films. All right. Last Thing He Wanted, which I was kind of excited about because Ben Affleck, Willem Dafoe, Anne Hathaway, Rosie Perez, and it came and went with a whisper. Came and went with a whisper. It was awful. It was so bad. 5% Rotten Tomatoes score, should have been 0, but it is what it is. Coffee and Cream, never saw it, but you got Ed Helms and Tajari P. Henderson, 20% Rotten Tomatoes score. This is just 2020. So, yay! We can talk about a movie that came out 6 years ago in Beasts of No Nation, and it's really good. But that's the problem isn't that Netflix doesn't have the odd winner. It's that for every one good one, like legitimately good film they put out 10 terrible ones. That is the complete opposite of what a good movie production and good distribution thing should be. And again, it's a totally different story when you start talking about Netflix original series. They have a much better winning record when it comes to their original series, winning percentage. But yeah, man, their movie division sucks. But even though they suck, they put out some really good ones from time to time. And like I said, my 2020 favorite film of the year is a Netflix original show in Trial of the Chicago 7. That's just me. Okay, next up. Arian Schroeder writes, Bob Iger never said that Deadpool wouldn't be in the MCU. He only ever said that the marketing would have to be clear. Well, there was one time he said that. He's also said other things at other times. So this isn't a change of course. Was there some question? Yes, but nobody definitively said that. Well, no, he always implied it. He never definitively said that. We were always clear about that. Here's an actual quote. Deadpool clearly has been, this is one of the quotes that he made before. Deadpool clearly has been and will be Marvel branded, but we think there might be an opportunity for a Marvel R brand for something like Deadpool. As long as we let the audience know what is coming, we think we can manage that fine. Now, he's also said, that was one of the things we talked a lot about, that specific quote, but he's made other quotes before too. and talking about the potential of keeping it separate, and that the Marvel R brand thing was not necessarily going to be integrated into the MCU as a whole, but rather as a separate thing. The Marvel R brand stuff was going to be considered a separate thing for a period of time. Now, that was over a year ago. That was well over a year ago. And like I said, for the longest time, I believe right up until probably even today, I don't think they've completely 100% decided what they were going to do. So a year ago or longer, there was still a lot of discussion to be had, a lot of contemplation to be had, and it could have gone any way. But yeah, I believe Kevin Feige now coming out, and listen, the reason they've never said before, if they knew that they were just going to put Deadpool in the MCU, that is something they would have heralded a long time ago. I believe it's not a coincidence that Kevin Feige is only now coming out and saying it, because I do believe, and I think Bob Iger's words shore this out, that they were leaning towards having Deadpool in a separate entity, something outside, not directly connected in with the MCU. And I believe he's implied that several times, but it was never definitive. And it's been over a year, and they've had a lot to think about and a lot of time to weigh things out. And again, that's why I think only now are we hearing anything definitive about it. So I think that's important to keep in mind too. You can't just pull one quote. You have to look at it in terms of everything else he said as well. But again, there's never, like you said, there's never been anything definitive. Bob Iger never said, we're going to make Deadpool, but gosh golly, he ain't going to be rated R. He's never said, oh, we're never going to let him be, or we're never going to let him be in the MCU. He never said anything definitive. But he has said a lot of things that kind of implied maybe something separate. And I think the fact that it's taken this long for Kevin Feige to come out and say something about it kind of proves that. But at any rate, it is a change of direction. But I think for a lot of people, it's a welcome change of direction. And that's why you take time. That's why when you're smart, like Kevin Feige, like Bob Iger, you don't rush decisions you don't need to rush. You take the time to let it simmer, contemplate it, talk to people about it, gather more information, and you make a good decision. And that's something that Kevin Feige and Bob Iger and no doubt a number of the other leaders over there have probably undertaken and done. And now it looks like they've come to a decision. Now it looks like they have. And it's one that's making a lot of people very happy. All right. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, man. Next up, James Bethea writes, hey, John, hope you're doing well. I am doing well. Thank you so much. I know you don't like playing the what actor would you like to play this role? No, I don't. I don't play that game, as a matter of fact. But I thought that the replacing of Ben Affleck, here we go. The replacing of Ben as Batman is unique since he is older and there isn't a lot of middle-aged actors that can play Batman. Oh, you're completely wrong. There are thousands. Literally thousands. Believe me, they serve me dinner when I go to. Like, that's the joke. In Los Angeles, every waiter or waitress you have is actually an actor or an actress. All the time. And by the way, there's nothing that says it has to be somebody we know of or are aware of. It's nothing that says we have to know who they are. It can be a totally new, undiscovered actor that they've seen them in a lot of stuff on stage or in smaller projects and really think they have the gift and they're talented, and get that person in to play it, right? So it can be not necessarily somebody brand new, but somebody we've never heard of. There's a difference. A lot of film fans equate never heard of them with somebody who has no experience and doesn't know what they're doing. When Chris Hemsworth got cast, well, let's go with Henry Cavill. When Henry Cavill got cast, he was already considered a can't-miss blue-chip prospect. He had it all. He had the talent, the chops, the charisma, the looks. I mean, he had it all. He was considered a can't miss. That's why before you and I ever heard his name, he was the runner-up to Daniel Craig to play James Bond, and he was the runner-up to play Superman when Brandon Routh got the role to play it in Superman Returns. Made a bit of a name for himself in The Tudors, which he was great in The Tudors, but, you know, there are a lot of actors like that. There are many actors that fit that description, my friend. Many, many, many actors that could fit that description. So I continue to say, nope, I'm not going to make, because I haven't read the script. Now, look, if somebody leaks me the script, well, first of all, they need to actually write the script, which they haven't done yet. But once they do, if somebody leaks me the script, maybe then I can form some opinions about which actors may or may not be right for the role. But the fact of the matter is, till we know what they're trying to make this iteration of Batman, we just won't know. The Michael Keaton iteration of Batman is very, very different from the Christian Bale iteration of Batman. The Christian Bale iteration of Batman is very, very different from the Ben Affleck iteration of Batman. The Ben Affleck iteration of Batman in Batman vs. Superman is very different from the Ben Affleck iteration of Batman in Justice League. It really depends. So maybe if I read a script, I can come up with something else, but until that time, there's no point. And there are lots of actors who could fit that role. So I'm just going to still say, as long as when they make a choice, it's somebody that most of us agree is a talented performer. And if it's somebody we've never heard of before, reassure us that this person's got a great build-up resume. They did stage here. They were part of this program and this program. They were knocking it out of the park and here, here, and here. And we're thrilled to introduce this actor to you. I'm fine with that too. That's why, like, when they announced Ray Fisher was going to play Cyborg, that's a different lifetime ago. But when they announced that they hired Ray Fisher, if you go back to like the AMC days when we talked about this, I was super excited. Why? I had never heard of Ray Fisher, but the moment they touted, this dude is Broadway trained. As soon as they said that, I'm like, that sounds good to me. You get somebody who's been on Broadway, they're going to bring it. They got the chops. Then I have no doubt. I've never heard his name, but I felt very confident he had the pure talent. And I thought he did very good as Cyborg. Anyway. Current drama notwithstanding, I thought he did very good as Cyborg. And that's why I was stoked for him. And so, yeah, it doesn't have to be a famous name. It could be anybody. Again, all I want is that they get somebody talented. Don't just get some novelty, gimmick, big name who's famous for something, whatever, stupid. Just get us a talented actor. That's all that matters. All right. Next up, Min Tran writes, top 10 for 2020. Number 1, Trial of the Chicago 7. Mine too. Number 2, The Way Back. It was very good. Number 3, Promising Young Woman. Number 4, Words on Bathroom Walls. Number 5, Yellow Rose. Number 6, The Gentleman. Number 7, Soul. Number 8, Miss Juneteenth. I haven't seen that one. Number 9, Spree. Number 10, Let Him Go. Again, I was so surprised. Well, and I shouldn't have been, because Aaron Sorkin had directed a movie already. It was called Molly's Game. And that movie was wonderful, especially for a directorial debut. It was fantastic. I love Molly's Game. It also helps that I'm into poker a lot, so that helped a lot. So I suspected Aaron Sorkin would do well with Trial of the Chicago 7. I was not prepared for how moved I was watching that movie. I just wasn't ready for it. I expected something charming and something with great dialogue, and it was going to be hopefully a little bit informative, kind of entertaining, just like he did with Molly's Game, which I really enjoyed. I wasn't ready for how good this is. He is shaping into being not just one of the, if not the premier writer in Hollywood. He could be on his way to being the premier director. This is getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. He's done 2 films. Congratulations. But man, I love that movie way more than I thought I would. So thanks for sharing that, Min. All right. The Wakandan Forever writes, I had to go to the DMV today. That's never good. 2021 is one of the hardest years I've ever had, and we are only 2 weeks in. Okay, I have become obsessed with Baby Yoda. What scares me is if they age him like teenage Groot. Please don't make him skateboard and rap. Well, listen, I don't think there's any worry about that. Remember, we don't know. We've never been given an exact age for Grogu, or better known as Baby Yoda. We've never been given an exact age. But what we did find out from the first episode of The Mandalorian was he's approximately 50 years old, right? So if he's only at that stage in his development at 50, he ain't going to hit his teenage years in the next 6 or 7 years. So Baby Yoda is going to be Baby Yoda for us for quite a while. So I don't think there's anything to worry about that there, Wakanda Forever. I think we're safe. All right, Wakanda Forever also writes, my Star Wars question, John, the Yoda species, do they all talk backwards like the original Yoda, or is that specific to Yoda himself? It's getting ridiculous. I have 2 Baby Yoda figures and literally bought a Baby Yoda sleeping bag. Save me from myself, LOL. Hey, listen, Wakanda, like Baby Yoda, Baby Yoda mania swept the world. You're just a little late to the party, so don't feel bad about it at all. Baby Yoda mania swept the world, so you're in good company there. I mean, it's hard to say because we've never even Yaddle. We've never heard Yaddle speak. There's some legend stuff, but none of that counts now officially. So we don't actually know. Actually, you know what? In the Legends books, and like in the original Star Wars books, this is before Disney took it over. This is before they canonized everything. They actually said in the Legends books that Wookiees could speak English perfectly fine. It's just that Chewbacca's got a speech impediment. They actually did that. And then they killed Chewbacca by hitting him with the moon. Just saying. So they did some pretty ridiculous things in there too. So the bottom line is, I don't know. Hard to say. Maybe just Yoda's a funny old hermit. You know, maybe that's just the way he's always been, or maybe that's the way his people talk. We will find out someday. Someday we'll find out. All right, next up. Aaron Schroeder writes, one of two. This may seem like a strange question, but as a student of theology, do you believe that there is objective good and objective evil? How does this relate to film? If there is objective evil, I can say Birth of a Nation is objectively bad. Evil, made for evil reasons, contains evil content. Now, if there is no objective evil, then by every measure I can think of, film is indeed subjective, which I also very much do believe. If there is objective evil, then there may be room for more debate. The two are separate things. They're two separate questions. In talking about the subjectivity of film, this is an uncomfortable thing for people to say, but it's the truth. Whether a movie is made for good intentions or bad is actually a completely separate conversation from is the movie qualitatively good or bad. That is a subjective impression on somebody, right? Like, take me, for instance. Let's just use $1 Million Baby as an example, okay? The Clint Eastwood masterpiece of a movie, $1 Million Baby, which won an Academy, which won, I think everybody got nominated. Hold on a second. $1 Million Baby. I believe it got like 5 Academy Awards or something like that. Let me just bring this up. Let me go to the awards page. Where is it? There it is. $1 Million Baby got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was off by 2. Got 7 Academy Award nominations, including like all the 3 main actors. Morgan Freeman, Clint Eastwood, and Hilary Swank all got nominated for acting Academy Awards. Hilary Swank and Morgan Freeman both won. Hilary Swank won one of, I believe she's got 2 Academy Awards now. Hilary Swank won for Best Lead Actress in a movie. Morgan Freeman won his Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Clint Eastwood won for Best Direction. And it also won for Best Picture of the Year, which got him that as well. Clint Eastwood was also nominated for Supporting Actor. It was nominated for Best Screenplay and Best Editing. So let's look at that movie for a second. $1 Million Baby. Spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't know $1 Million Baby. I'm about to give a spoiler away, okay? This is an older film. This came out 15, 16 years ago. So if you haven't watched it by now, you're clearly not interested. But at the end of the film, there's a moral dilemma at the end of the film. Hilary Swank's character has become quadriplegic. And they've told her, because of an accident in the boxing ring, or not so much of an accident, but because of something that happened in the boxing ring, she's going to be a quadriplegic for the rest of her life. She wants to end her life. She doesn't want to live that way. And she pleads with the Clint Eastwood character to help her end her life. This is a very uncomfortable moral dilemma, ethical dilemma that the audience is thrust into via the avatars of these characters on screen. And ultimately everybody's asking themselves the questions, what would you do? Not just what would you do if you were the Hilary Swank character wanting to end her life, but what if you're the Clint Eastwood character and she's asking you to help her end her life? And he wrestles with it and he wrestles with it. And at the end of the day, that fictitious character, this character in the movie, played by Clint Eastwood, he chooses to help her commit suicide. He chooses to assist in, and effectively he chooses to end her life. Now, I am not comfortable with that. You know, and here's the thing. There were a lot of people when that came out. Some people don't remember this. I do. There were a lot of people who were very uncomfortable with that, saying that Clint Eastwood by making this movie and having the character does that, Clint Eastwood is making a statement that people who are quadriplegic have no value and they might as well just kill themselves because they have no value. And I am uncomfortable with that because I didn't agree with the character's choice. And again, what was the name of Clint Eastwood's character? Clint Eastwood's character was Frankie Dunn. Frankie Dunn. I didn't agree with what Frankie Dunn did. I thought Frankie Dunn made the wrong choice. But what a lot of people failed to do was recognize that just because Clint Eastwood was telling a story about what this fictitious character, a situation that this fictitious character found himself in, and what that fictitious character chose to do, is not Clint Eastwood, the filmmaker, making any statements. And it's not even Clint Eastwood saying that's what he would do. He's making a fictitious story with fictitious characters put in difficult situations, and this particular character made this decision. Whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision, that's up to the audience member to contemplate and think about and have it sit with them and weigh with them and all that kind of stuff. And it was very effective at that. My point is that even though I, as one viewer, disagreed with what Frankie did, I thought it was the wrong decision for Frankie to help end her life. That doesn't change. That is a separate discussion from whether I thought it was an excellently made movie, in my own subjective opinion. And in my own subjective opinion, regardless of the fact that I thought what Frankie did was wrong, it doesn't change that it's an unbelievable movie experience. That situation that Frankie was in and made me feel these moral dilemmas and this tug of war in my heart. And, you know, you're crying out at the end and you feel one way. The movie delivered an experience. We can have the debate about whether it was morally objectively wrong for Frankie to do that or morally objectively right. My simple point is that is a separate discussion from the subject of quality of the film overall and the experience that it created. And that's uncomfortable. We like to think in absolutes. Absolutes are rarely ever true. There are absolute truths, absolutely. But we like to only think in absolutes and makes it easier. But the reality is, I think they're two very separate discussions and very different outcomes. So I can't really touch on that. I mean, I think it's excellent that you're thinking on that level. I think that's great. That's the type of thinking a lot of film fans should be engaging in. But that's my thing of it is I can't make any comparisons because I think they are two different discussions and one does not automatically connect with the other. That's just how I see it. That's my point of view. But excellent question to bring up here on a late Wednesday night. Aaron, appreciate that, man. Okay, let's keep going here. Next up, we got Sam Shaw from Plymouth who writes, the UK just went into its third lockdown right after my local cinema announced that they'd be showing all 24 previous Bond movies to prep for No Time to Die, as well as having a musical season showing a ton of the classic musicals, including Moulin Rouge. That sucks, man. I mean, listen, we've just pretty much been in perpetual lockdown. Like the AMC Burbank 16, one of the best movie theaters in the country, that is literally like a 10-minute walk up the road from me, has been closed, I mean, for almost a year now. It's been closed for almost a year. I have been able to go to 2 movies in theaters in the past year. Almost the past year. One required a 7-hour round trip to go to Vegas to watch New Mutants. One required a 3-hour round trip of going to Orange County to go to the AMC Orange 30 to watch Tenet. Those are the only 2 opportunities I've had to go to movie theaters. I've gone to the drive-in a couple of times, and I love the drive-in. Drive-in's a lot of fun. Still no replacement for a real movie theater. But it's particularly bad when you get teased with this, like, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to have this marathon. We're going to have this and prep. Oh, we're in another lockdown. Hey, listen, though. The good news is Hopefully now with the vaccinations coming, hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're not there yet. There's still a lot of work to do. It's still incumbent upon you and me and individual people to do the right thing, take responsibility, do all the right things, look out for each other, all that kind of stuff. And I think the light's at the end of the tunnel. How long it's going to take us to get there, I don't know. But at least it's out there. But I feel your pain, Sam. I totally feel your pain. All right, Casey McNatt writes, "Hey, John, how are you today?" I'm doing well, thank you, Casey. The main thing I need to ask you is, do you think studios will wait till April to see how things will play out in the summer? Also, did you see they're making an Indiana Jones game? What are your thoughts? Well, yeah, we talked about the Indiana Jones game thing earlier today on my show, so you can go on my YouTube channel. You can find our video talking about the Indiana Jones game. I'm very excited for it. Very excited for it. In the video, we explain why. Yeah, I mean, listen, we were talking about this morning. In my most hyper optimistic, I think mid to late May, maybe the theaters can get open and the movies can start releasing. And that's me being hyper optimistic. More realistically, I'm thinking June, July. Now there's a lot of ifs attached to that. The biggest if is that, incoming President-elect Joe Biden is saying that they want to have 100 million vaccinations within the first 100 days. That's not going to be easy. Now, if they can do that, then I think June, July is actually I think they'll be good for June or July. A little bit more conservatively, maybe August. But yeah, that's where I'm thinking right now. But listen, don't take that for anything, right? Back in March of 2020, I thought we'd be back in the movie theaters by July because I just thought everybody would act like responsible people and do everything we needed to do to get the pandemic under control. Boy, was I naive about the stupidity of humanity. Anyway, so here we are. But yeah, right now I feel like the light's at the end of the tunnel. I feel like June, July is probably a good target right now. But again, that is all predicated on a whole bunch of ifs. Like, what if they don't get those vaccinations out in time? What if we're only like 20 million people vaccinated in the first 100? I mean, so there's still a lot of question marks. But right now, my guess is June, July is probably safe. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. That's the question we're all asking, Casey. It's the question we are all asking. All right, next up. The real Michael Myers writes, "Hey, John, I've been quarantined due to COVID, but I went back and watched the Captain America trilogy. Might as well make good use of your time, my friend. And I had forgotten how great it was and agree with you on how great the first Avenger is. I'm rewatching Man of Steel tonight. Love the show very much. Thank you so much." And yes, listen, everybody looks at me cross-eyed because I get asked the question all the time. "Hey, John, what do you think's the better trilogy? The Captain America trilogy or the Dark Knight trilogy?" And everybody gives me the stink eye when I say, I think overall, the better trilogy is the Captain America trilogy. Now, I always got to follow that up and say, I think the single best movie out of those 6 is the Dark Knight. I think the Dark Knight is the single best movie out of the 6. But when you look at, but I also believe the Dark Knight trilogy has the single worst film out of the 6 as well in The Dark Knight Rises. That's I think, the worst film out of the 6. And it's not bad. I'm just saying, I think it's the worst film out of the 6. And so when you put them all together, I just find when you look at the incredible constant quality of Captain America, the First Avenger, which I believe is the 3rd most underrated comic book film of all time, behind only Thor 1 and Man of Steel. Then obviously some people think Captain America Winter Soldier is the greatest comic book movie ever made. And then Captain America Civil War, which also a bunch of people think might be the greatest comic book movie ever made. I just think overall, and I know some of you are giving me the stink eye through your computer monitor right now or your televisions, whichever you're watching this on. But yeah, not by a lot, but I would put my money on the better overall trilogy is the Captain America one. And you're right, all 3 of them, First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War, all fantastic. All fantastic. Even though the best one out of the 6 is The Dark Knight. Anyway, I'm glad you're being able to relive those movies, man. That's great. All right. Jada D writes, thank you for putting in the pronunciation there. That makes my life easier. Hey, John, New fan, found your show during the pandemic. It's good to have you here, Jada. Good to have you, man. Do you believe WandaVision will be a catalyst to explain the existence of X-Men? No. If yes, how? And over under 40% we see some mutants on the show. And who do you think we will see love the show? Thank you so much, man. And no, I don't. And the reason I don't is the same reason. I mean, to be honest, Jada, almost every new Marvel thing that's come out since late 2017. Can you believe it's been that long? Can you believe it? Or was it late 2018? One of the two. I think it was late 2017. But when they first made the announcement that Disney was going to take over Fox, almost every new MCU thing comes out. People have been asking, is this the part where they're going to introduce the mutants? Is this the part where they're going to introduce the mutants? But we always go back to what Kevin Feige said. He said, look, I'm just finding this out now, but I've got a 5-year plan already in place, and we're not changing that plan. So we will work these things in their time, but right now we've got a 5-year plan. And we're going to stick to our plan. And yet, every new Marvel movie and thing that's come out, people have been adamant that this is the one that they're going to introduce mutants. People even thought like in Endgame was going to end, and the catalyst of Endgame, they were going to say that the snap created mutants and mutants are going to be there and blah, blah. And Kevin Feige just keeps proving he's a man of his word. I'm sticking with my 5-year plan. WandaVision was in his 5-year plan. I do not think they're going to use this as the catalyst to bring in mutants. That said, there is always a possibility of minds being changed. But again, it's not coincidence and it's not arbitrary that it wasn't until the Disney investor announcement came along that Kevin Feige even mentioned Fantastic Four. And at minimum, that ain't coming out till like 2023, right? That's minimum 2023 that comes out. So you're already talking 5-6 years after the events of that. So no, I really don't think it's not impossible. Not impossible. Kevin can change his mind, but so far he's stayed pretty steady with that. He said he wasn't going to bother addressing mutants or anything like that until he got his 5-year plan out of the way. And so far he's stuck with it. Doesn't mean he can't do it with WandaVision, but I do not expect that they will. I don't expect that they will. Again, I'm not saying it's impossible, and I am not claiming any insider information. This is me as a fan talking to you as a fan. I don't think it's likely. I think we're still going to have to wait a while for mutants and X-Men and characters like that to come in. I got a feeling we may not even see any of them until after they get Fantastic Four out. They're taking their time. Kevin Feige knows he's got time, and they're going to take their time. They got a lot of characters to work with there, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, good to have you with us, Jada, and thank you so much for sending that in, dude. I really appreciate it. All right, let's move on here. Next up, finally saw Kingdom writes, how does Anne, by the way, my wife's name Anne, no E. Just saying that. A lot of people write Anne and they put an E on the end. She's not Anne of Green Gables. Good Canadian character. She is just Anne, A-N-N. There you go. How does Anne feel about the show? I will admit the first season isn't the best, but season 3 is jaw-dropping. Also, in season 3, Kirk, I don't know how to pronounce the name, shows up. He played Dragon Diaz in I do like him. I like him very much. He was great in that show, by the way. I was never big on Frank Grillo, but I love him after his acting in the finale. Again, listen, I think Anne and I are halfway into season 1. Maybe at this point. We're enjoying it. Anne likes it. I like it. I don't love it yet, but I'm into it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. So thanks for writing that in, man. And yes, I have started watching Kingdom. All right. Bobby Wood Hogan writes, hey, John, hope you're well. I am well. Thank you so much. I recently heard a rumor. Oh, good. Rumors. Henry Cavill's Superman will be appearing in the Flash movie. I couldn't find an original source on this, so take it with a grain of salt, but it seems like a no-brainer to me. What do you think? I doubt it. I doubt it. I mean, listen, it's anybody popping up in this Flash movie is a possibility. Anybody and any character is a possibility. Listen, if they're bringing in Michael Keaton to be there for a one-shot, and they're bringing in Ben Affleck for one, it can be anybody. Other than Cyborg, apparently. But it could be anybody. And Superman is anybody, so why not? But no, I haven't heard anything legitimate. And listen, be very, very careful about rumors that you hear. 95% of the time they're BS. And the 5% of the time when they're not BS, if we just wait a couple of days, and if they're real, then one of the major trades will report on it as well. And then we know it's worth talking about. But anyway, there's that. So Superman is as much a possibility of anybody if Michael Keaton can show up. But I don't think it's likely. But I do believe, I've been saying this for a while, J.J. Abrams is going to do a Superman movie, and I believe he's going to have Henry Cavill continue to be Superman. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. So let's see what happens. First, let's even see if this Flash movie happens. This Flash movie was supposed to be in theaters a couple of years ago. I mean, this is a Flash movie that's gone through 4 sets of directors, 4 or 5 sets of writers, a lot of drama. So I just want to see if this movie actually gets made. They keep talking about it. I want to see something actually happen. So I'm not even 100% convinced that the movie's going to happen at this point yet. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. All right. Thanks for that, man. Next up, Scott K writes, with the new Indiana Jones game on its way and considering your new movie, I was wondering, what is your favorite video game trailer? My top ones are Halo Reach, Halo 3, Batman Arkham Origins, and all the Star Wars The Old Republic cinematic trailers. It's not even close to me. By a mile, the Star Wars The Old Republic, the 2 in particular trailers for Star Wars The Old Republic. The one when they're around, I can't remember if in the game they call it Korriban or Moraband. It's the two different names they've used at different times for the Sith homeworld. And I can't remember which one they used for the video game. At any rate, the Jedi are in orbit around it, and all of a sudden the Sith Empire returns and they attack the ship, and there's a big lightsaber battle. Satine gets away on one. I mean, it's incredible. And then the next trailer takes place on Coruscant with the Sith attack on the Jedi Temple. And like just this army of Sith come running out, taking on this army of Jedi. And it's amazing. It's a fabulous trailer. So yeah, I've seen good trailers of video games, but honestly, none of them really stick with me all that much, anywhere near as those Old Republic trailers. Those Old Republic trailers just completely take the cake for me, Scott. Thanks for writing in, man. And I am excited about this Indiana Jones game. All right, next up, we've got Ryan Lohner, who writes, I just rewatched Life is Beautiful. And boy, is it a good thing that that movie ends at the exact moment it does. Literally 2 seconds later, we get to keep the tank, right? That's what Dad said. Where is he anyway? Oh God. Listen, if you guys have never seen Life is Beautiful, and I know many of you have not, because it's not the kind of movie, it's now 24 years old. Oh my God. It's not the kind of movie that would, jump out to a lot of different people. It is an absolute masterpiece. Italian film done by Roberto Benigni. It's the basic gist of it is this. This Italian Jewish guy played by Roberto Benigni, he meets this woman, Principessa. He meets this woman. They fall in love. They have a child, and his wife and his child are his world. In the heat of the rise of the Nazis, they are rounded up and put in concentration camps. And their families put into a concentration camp. Now, the dad, I'm going to get choked up just thinking about this movie. The dad, he decides he wants to protect his son. He wants his son to understand that the world is beauty and life is good. And so he protects his son from the horrors of what's going on by convincing his son that this is all a big game they're trying to win. And those mean Nazi soldiers are just playing mean, trying to get them to lose the game, but they've got to win the game, right? And he's trying to portray that life is beautiful. And I want to talk about the ending. I know the movie's 24 years old, so if you haven't seen it by now, you're probably never going to watch it. But my God, you should. Because the ending of Life is Beautiful is one of the single most powerful endings to any movie ever. Ever. And yes, it's a foreign language film. And yes, you're going to have to read some subtitles. But I am telling you, this is one of the greatest movies ever made. With probably the most powerful ending to a movie I've ever seen. At least it ranks right up there. If you guys have not seen Life is Beautiful, you absolutely got to do it. And I'm glad you got caught up on it there, Ryan. It's such a good movie. All right, let's move on here. Next up, we've got Mr. Frodo writes, thanks for everything, John. My girlfriend finally forced me to watch Moulin Rouge. I love top 20, not my top 10, but it's in my top 20 all-time favorite films. Now, I didn't think I would enjoy it, but I was blown away by the raw artistic vision of Baz Luhrmann. Is his Romeo and Juliet film worth watching as well? Thanks for reading. Well, thank you, Mr. Frodo, for sending that in. Moulin Rouge is a force of nature movie. It is constant kinetic energy that just washes over you constantly. It's the movement and color and music and Ewan McGregor. I mean, who knew that Obi-Wan could sing and sing well? It's absolutely a magical movie. Now, as far as Romeo and Juliet, that's one he did with Leo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. I love Claire Danes. See Stardust. Henry Cavill, Charlie Cox, Claire Danes. So good. Anyway, I like it's a very unique film because basically what his Romeo and Juliet is it is set in modern day when Romeo and Juliet, when the movie came out. It's set in modern day, but it uses all the original language of the original Romeo and Juliet. And they find a way to make the language fit with the modern context. It's really impressive. It's really impressive. I like Romeo and Juliet. I don't put it anywhere near on the same level as Moulin Rouge per se, and I'm so glad you watched that. But yeah, I would, if you're asking me basically, is that Romeo and Juliet film worth watching? I would say yes. Again, different film, different approach, still very unique. Just adjust expectations. I don't think it's on the same level as Moulin Rouge, but I think it's quite good. So yeah, go and check it out and let me know what you think of it once you do. And again, I'm really glad you checked out Moulin Rouge. I love that movie. All right, next up, Willow writes, I know that Trial of Chicago 7 is the best 2020 movie that you've seen. What is the worst 2020 movie for you? Mine is the Netflix film 365 Days. Oh, I don't know. I can't remember all the stuff that I've watched this year. So I honestly can't say. I don't know. I've just really lost track of a lot of things. So I never did, because it was such an abbreviated year. I never bothered putting together a best of list nor a worst of list. And look, I know we just listed a lot of crappy 2020 Netflix films, some of which I did see. A lot of those were bad. I just can't remember which ones were this year. It's like I watched a bad movie, I let it go, and I just moved on. You know what I mean? I try to hold on to the good ones that I saw, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Honestly, Willow, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I did not see 365 Days, though. So that's one I'll know to avoid for moving forward, though. Thanks for writing that in, Willow. All right, Wakanda Forever writes, hey, John. I'm getting help with my Baby Yoda addiction. I'm trying to cut down to only ordering one figure at a time. P.S. I did read your social media post. If you were wondering, don't worry, Wakanda still has our Twitter account. Have a good one. I'm not quite sure that's what that's in reference to. I put up a lot of tweets, so I'm not quite sure what you're referencing, but I appreciate that, and hang in there with that Baby Yoda addiction. All right. Drunken Juan Kenobi, I like that name, writes, John, here's a theory for you. Could, in a parallel world / multiverse, Killmonger Michael B. Jordan be the king of Wakanda, therefore the Black Panther that needs to cross to the current MCU reality to help in a war with Namor, maybe after Namor kills T'Challa? Yeah, no. I mean, listen, we could sit here all day, Drunken Juan Kenobi. By the way, best Twitter name, or best YouTube chat handle name I've read all day. We can come here. What if Superman comes into the MCU and brings a big thing of kryptonite, but it's gold kryptonite, and kryptonite diffuses vibranium, and we could play that game all day. I mean, we could really play that game all day. So no, I don't think that's a theory that works. That's just my opinion. I think that gets a little too convoluted and a little too silly. So I personally, not one that works for me. But hey, keep thinking of them. I think of more silly. Believe me, I think of 100 more silly ones a day. I just don't talk about them on the show. That's all. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Drunken. All right. Aaron Epstein. Tips in $20. Thank you, Aaron, for supporting the channel on that level, man. I appreciate that. And Aaron writes, hey, John, love the documentary. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You were talking about HBO losing many of its subs after Game of Thrones ended, but it makes perfect sense why people don't want to subscribe. Terrible Game of Thrones ending. Game of Thrones ending was fantastic, by the way. Mediocre mix of DC movies and screwing over filmmakers. Trash company. Well, I mean, no. Here's the thing. First of all, Game of Thrones was awesome. It had record numbers. The problem was, after Game of Thrones was done, it turned out that's why everybody was sticking around, was just for Game of Thrones. Well, not everybody, but a good chunk of people were only sticking around for Game of Thrones. And the moment Game of Thrones was done, they lost 51% of their main demographic and almost 40% of their overall viewership, and they've never been able to recover, despite the fact that they put out great content. Now, look, we as fans often make what I call the fly on the wedding cake syndrome, right? If there's a fly on a wedding cake and somebody looks at it and you say to that person, what do you see? What are they going to say? They're going to say, I see a fly. Meanwhile, 99.9% of what they're looking at is a beautiful wedding cake. But what do we see? We see the fly. That is something we as entertainment fans, I think most people, to be honest with you, but specifically in this context, we as entertainment fans really fall prey to the fly on the wedding cake syndrome. So we will instantly forget about and overlook all the incredible things Warner Brothers does and all the incredible content that they've given and all the triumphs that they've had. And we'll focus on the things that are bad. Now, it's more interesting to talk about the things that are bad. And sometimes those are things we do need to focus on and talk about. But I hesitate to paint the entire, company's resume and the entire company as an entity strictly based on those few things, right? I mean, look at HBO Max and HBO. They have some of the greatest content of all time. Greatest content of all time. Game of Thrones, Sopranos, Deadwood. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Even recently, Barry, Lovecraft Country, Watchmen. It really does go on and on and on. They do a lot of incredible stuff. And there's a lot of people who really like the DC movies. Aquaman, Joker won Academy Awards. Shazam was fantastic. I mean, so... it all depends on our own individual points of view. I am, quite frankly, a little bit... I think everybody underestimates just how powerful Game of Thrones was. And the funny thing is, it would be easy to say, yeah, they had nothing else. But HBO had a lot of really good stuff. They continue to have a lot of really good stuff. But I think this thing really highlights just how big Game of Thrones was. And I am one of the majority. I think the ending of Game of Thrones was fantastic. It was too short. It shouldn't have just been 6 episodes. Heavens, it shouldn't have been 6 episodes. It should have been longer than that. But overall, I thought it was utterly fantastic. Final season won more Emmys than any other season they ever had. Just saying. That aside, putting the debate of how good or bad was the final season of Game of Thrones aside, you can't underestimate how big it was. And I remember when Game of Thrones was coming to an end, a lot of us joking around, wow, what's HBO going to do now? I never imagined, especially with all the quality content they have on HBO, that Game of Thrones was so big and was so responsible for so many people signing up to HBO just so they could watch Game of Thrones, that when it was over and wasn't on anymore, everybody left. It's crazy. Look, listen, as of right now, I think HBO has the best content out of any of the streaming services. As of right now, as of this moment, that might change a year from now once we get a whole lot more stuff on Disney Plus and what have you. And Netflix has a lot of great stuff too, obviously. But honestly, for my money right now, this moment, Wednesday, January the 13th, 2021, I think HBO has the best, most impressive lineup of content. Not the most content, but pound for pound. I mean, I think they are the cream of the crop. I think they are the crown jewel of the streaming world right now. But they haven't been able to catch that fire that they lost with Game of Thrones. Once Game of Thrones was done, a lot of people just didn't think there was anything worth sticking around for, which is so weird because they have so much good content. So much good content. If you're a marketer and you get handed something like, here, promote this, and it's something that's garbage, your job's hard. But if you're a marketer and, a customer acquisition specialist, and you get handed a lineup that HBO Max has, you got to be able to sell that. And the fault is there. So they've got some making up to do, but yes, Warner Brothers, just like Disney, just like Paramount, just like Sony, just like Universal, HBO makes it, or WB makes its mistake. They have their flaws. I've been very critical of Warner Brothers with the way they've dealt with this whole 2021 films all going to thing. I've been very critical, but I also love the studio at the same time, right? So I do not think they're a trash company at all. I think that is very much a fly in the wedding cake syndrome. I think that's overlooking so much of the good stuff they do. Not that we shouldn't be critical when they do stupid things. We should be critical when they do stupid things, but we can't fall into that fly in the wedding cake syndrome at the same time. That's just my thought on that, Aaron. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, man. All right. Frankie G writes, from the trades and online, looks like Netflix are spending 2021 investing films, bringing them up to the quality of their TV shows. Well, I mean, it looks like that every year. I mean, every year they announced bigger and bigger and bigger original programming budgets, spending in excess of like 15, 17, 18 billion dollars a year in their original content. But they do that every year. So far, not so good. Again, like we covered earlier, their win to loss ratio is terribly lopsided. Instead of like a lot of studios that put out like 3 or 4 good movies for every 1 or 2 bad ones they do, Netflix puts out 1 good one for every 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 bad ones that they put out. They got to get that turned around. But they seem to be in this mode of quantity over quality. Just put as much stuff out there as possible. Just keep throwing new content out there, regardless if it's crap or not. HBO takes a different approach. They really try to make sure their stuff that they put up on HBO is really good. And for the most part, they succeed. So, but then again, Netflix has much bigger numbers than HBO does. So, I mean, so which one is really the truly smart approach? I'm just saying, but who knows, Frankie? Listen, all I know is that as a film fan, as a movie fan, it would be amazing if Netflix could start to get a better win-to-loss ratio with their movie division as they have with their series division. Because it's a totally different ballgame when it comes to their series. Much different ratio. So here's hoping, Frankie. All right. Greg Scott Bailey writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John. I went back to watch Stargate Universe and fell back in love with that series all over again. Heartbreaking it was canceled after 2 seasons. Oh, what it could have grown into. One of the things I noticed was that it seems like a lot of shows and some movies in the early 2000s employed the whole zoom in hand cam camera technique. Saw it in The Office and Parks and Rec. It was a bit wonky, but still enjoyable style of Stargate Universe. Just thought I'd share an observation. Well, listen, I actually think the whole, no pun intended, universe of Stargate was really, I wasn't so big on Atlantis. I will admit, I wasn't terribly big on Stargate Atlantis, which is where Jason Momoa pretty much got his start. But that original Stargate series, whenever I kind of stumble across it and it's on, I usually find myself stopping to watch it. I really enjoyed the series. I didn't love like the last season or 2 per se, but for the most part it was. And then they got into Stargate Universe. Never found its traction, never really got the odds. I remember there was talk, and I can't ever remember what happened with this, but there was talk about a Stargate streaming service that was going to be like all the Stargate stuff all the time, plus new original Stargate stuff. I can't remember what happened to that at any rate. But yes, that hand cam zoom in thing is used a lot in shows like Parks and Rec and The Office for that effect. And if you'd be shocked if you actually sit down for a couple episodes and count how many times they use that technique, you'd probably be surprised how big that number is. That's a really good observation, Greg. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right. Next up. BC is a Beast writes, "Hey, John, I'm here to give reasons to watch Warrior. It's based on a story by Bruce Lee, and it's like Banshee starring Anthony Starr, times Deadwood times MMA. Is executive produced by Justin Lin, Sharon Lee, and Joseph Topher. Showrunner Joe Taslim, new Sub-Zero." Yeah, I really don't know anything about it. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Warrior. Let me see if I can find anything on this here. So Warrior TV series, 2019, during the Tong Wars, late 1800s. Okay, yes, this is. Not high on my priority list. Going to be honest with you. Not high on my priority list. I don't get a lot of recommendations for it. Plus, I'm very behind. I'm trying to just watch Kingdom right now. I've got a lot of people telling me I'm supposed to watch Dark, so I'm behind on that as well. I'm going to try to stay I'm going to stay very regular with WandaVision once it starts airing, and I watched the first 3 episodes today. This is not high on my priority list right now, and so I don't think I'm going to be able to get around to it. I'm just being honest with you. I don't want to lie to you and say, yeah, I'll watch, but it's probably not high on my priority list. If I start hearing from 100 other people, like I did with Harley Quinn, or like I did with Kingdom, if I start hearing from 100 other people, maybe I've changed my mind. But I'm glad, and it looks like it's got pretty good ratings, and I'm glad you clearly like it, so I'm glad you do. But yeah, it's not on my priority list right now, just to be honest. But anyway, thanks for the recommendation, man. And I will keep my eyes open for other people recommending it. I will keep my eyes open for that. Thanks for sharing it, man. All right, next up, we've got BC is a Beast writes, "What a beast. Andrew Koji, new Storm Shadow, is also a beast. Can't recommend it enough. It has great characters, writing, production, etc. Only complaint I have is that there are too many sex scenes. That's never a problem for me. I love the filthy. Bring on the filthy. But I hope you enjoy it, and hopefully there is a season 3 on HBO Max." Again, never seen it. Don't have any plans to right now. But again, I will remember your recommendation, and I will keep my eyes open to see if others start pouring in the recommendations for it as well. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right, next up. Amy writes, or Ami, however you want to say that, writes, "Hey, John, I just heard about Core. If you're talking about Bravia Core, it has lossless audio and expands offerings / platforms. I might be, if it has lossless audio, which I think it does, and expands offerings / platforms, I might be interested. I want to see exclusives like Powers and 4K foreign in theater / SP classics, as well as expensive Blu-ray offerings. Like, guys, please don't use abbreviations when you write in. Just write out what it is you're trying to write out. I don't want to have to sit here and try to interpret it. So for those of you who aren't sure what Amy's talking about, Sony, it has this new Bravia line of TVs. I think they're called the Bravia XR is the new line of TVs they have. But they have a built-in, for lack of a better term, service called Bravia Core. And what Bravia Core does is it takes a limited selection of Sony properties, like, for instance, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and they stream them in 4K. Big deal, you might say. There are other services that stream in 4K. What's so special about this? The thing that they boast that makes this particular thing special is that whereas, everybody says 4K on streaming is not the same quality as 4K and Blu-ray, and they're right. Most people can't tell the difference, but they are right. There is a quality difference. The reason that is because most streaming services, it's the bit rate they use to stream that programming. Normally, they will stream at 15 to 25 megabits per second for the 4K stuff. Not everybody has stuff that can download at that speed, but that's what it's there for. But that's limited, 15 to 25, which is massive for if you're watching in regular HD. That's a terrific bandwidth. But for Blu-ray, 4K, not as much. It's still good. Most people can't tell the difference, but those who really know the stuff can tell the difference. Bravia Core will stream at 80 megabits per second. The others that do 4K, 15 to 25. This, almost 4 times as much. Over 3 times as much bandwidth. That's over 3 times as much digital information that is going into the images that you are seeing. So what Bravia Core is the promise that you now can get absolute Blu-ray 4K quality, disc quality, by watching on streaming. Now that's great, but as I said on the show, when we first brought up Bravia Core, there are 3 big asterisks to put beside that. All right. Number 1, you got to have one of these Bravia XR TVs. So you can't just get it. There's not a Bravia Core app on Roku and whatever. It's the hardware specifically designed to do this. So anyway, you got to have a Bravia XR TV. So that's limitation number 1. Number 2, it is a very limited selection. So that's the other thing you got to keep in mind. There's a limited selection of what you can watch via Bravia Core. I'm sure there's a list of the content that is available out there that you can probably just Google and find, but it's fairly limited compared to Disney Plus or Amazon or Netflix or whatever. It's going to be a very, very limited offering. Asterisk number 3 is you have to have a very good internet connection. Now, more and more people are getting much higher every year. A higher percentage of people are having like what we would call true high-speed home internet. Like right now, I have 900 megabit download. So like 80 for me is no big deal. And a lot of my neighbors have like 200 megabit per second. More and more, as you're seeing all these internet options, they're all like over 100. But still, not everybody has those types of speeds. So that will also become a limited factor or limiting factor. So it carries, this Bravia Core is fascinating to me. It is the promise of making the quality of physical media 4K versus streaming 4K indistinguishable, but with those 3 caveats right now. Got to have it on that. You got to have the Bravia TV. You got to, it's a limited selection, and you got to have that internet speed, but it is at least a glimpse into the future. And not even a long off. I mean, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, I think we're going to see Rokus or whatever comes after Roku, and Apple TVs or whatever comes after Apple TVs, and Amazon Fire Sticks and whatever comes after Amazon Fire Sticks. I think if this works, if this Bravia Core works, you're going to start to see that type of technology popping up in all the standard streaming platforms. And it could be a glimpse into the very, very near future. Or maybe it'll crash and burn. Who knows? We'll have to keep our eyes open for that. All right. Thanks for running that in, Amy. All right. Next up. If you don't want, answer this, writes, Deadpool is rated R in the MCU, but how R-rated will it be? We need to remember that Avengers was given an R rating at first because before its release. And I think what happens to Becca in The Boys is what's happening to Wanda without the rape, no duh. First of all, like, R is R. Once you get rated R, you're rated R. Honestly, to me, if you're going to be rated R, then don't worry about it. Just make sure you don't do enough to get a NC-17. But I don't remember, I don't remember the Avengers ever getting an R rating. Now, there are things to say they were originally given that. But so here's this one. The movies.com spoke to Marvel head Kevin Feige, who surprisingly said that Captain America 2 had no problem obtaining its PG-13 rating, revealing that the only time he had a beef with the MPA was during the Avengers. That film was actually submitted twice and received an R rating both times before Whedon finally made the appropriate edits. Says Kevin Feige, the scene that got them into hot water was whenever you impale somebody from their back and the blade comes out of their chest, there are issues. So it's the version of Avengers we saw was never rated R. There was another thing where they had things in it. And yeah, whenever you show human violence that involves a lot of blood and things like that, that's the stuff they look for. Like you could have a hero ripping the heads off monsters all day long and still get a PG-13. But once it's people and once there's blood, they get a little bit more antsy about that. So no, the version of Avengers we saw was never rated R. You know, apparently they made changes to it, so who knows? But I think once you are rated R, once you embrace that your movie is going to be rated R, what's the point? What's the point of having any, what's the word I'm looking for? When you hold back, restraints. Why have any restraint other than making sure you stay, you know, this side of NC-17? But if you're going to be rated R, you're already telling families this isn't for kids. You're already making the announcement this is R-rated. What's the point of putting on restraints on anything? Go for it at that point. You might as well. It's not like there's R level 1 and R level 2, you know? So, and I got a feeling Ryan Reynolds is probably, look, if I'm going to do Deadpool, if you want me doing Deadpool, then you got to let me do Deadpool. And this is how I do Deadpool. And we will make sure we don't get NC-17, but other than that, you just got to let us do our thing. And I think that's probably, again, if there were like 5 different levels of R rating, then you got to ask the question, but R is R. So as long as you stay south of NC-17, I think they'll be fine. So I think they'll go as hardcore rated R as they did in the original things, because what's the incentive to not? What's the incentive? What's the purpose of restraining yourself once you've already crossed the threshold into the R rating? I understand the restraints if you're trying to avoid the R rating. Then, yeah, you get it. Like, you got to pull back certain things to make sure you come in under that R rating. But once you cross the wall and go into, you know, the north beyond the wall, you're in the north beyond the wall, you know, go for it. Make your International Women's Day jokes, do all the things you want to do. Just stay south of NC-17 and you're good. And I think that's what they're going to do. Otherwise, there's no point in making a rated R. It's just pointless. Yeah, kind of like Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, right? They just wanted R as a gimmick. Because you watch that movie, it's like they purposefully added a few little things in just to make it R, because they wanted to say, look, kiddies, look how cool we are. We made our movie rated R. I watched that movie. That didn't need to be rated R in the least. There was nothing about that movie to me rated R, aside from a couple of little things that I think they purposely put in just so they could make it R. Deadpool's a totally different thing. And I really think Ryan Reynolds wants to do it a certain way if he's going to do it at all. That's just kind of my take on it, though. Anyway, good observation, man. Next up, and this will be the last one today, guys. Timothy writes, 1 of 3. Hey, John. Back in February, my mom passed from cancer. I'm so sorry to hear that, man. That's awful. And then, of course, COVID happened a month later. Going to the movies and having new movies to look forward to has always been a beacon of happiness for me. And in a time where I need that more than ever, I didn't have them. Your show, Rob and Aaron, have definitely been a great therapeutic escape for me during this very difficult time in my personal life, and given me something to be excited for during all of COVID. So for that, thank you, The John Campea Show. Have you heard any news about the Halo series Showtime is making? Is it still coming? Are you even looking forward to the show? And do you think people may now see this as a Mandalorian ripoff, even though Halo has come way before The Mandalorian? Thanks, John. Well, first of all, Timothy, the honor is ours that you choose to spend part of your time here in the community with us here. And it is our honor that this can be a place for that. And I know, being a part of this community myself and doing this show, it has been that for me as well. When we've hit some difficult times. I mean, I've been doing this show where I found out on air that a friend of mine has died. That actually happened once, like mid-show while doing a live show, I found out a friend of mine died. But being able to come back to the show, it's been that for me too, as somebody on this side of the camera. And so I'm super glad that the whole community can be here for you like that. Now let's talk about Halo. Yeah, Halo has this really twisted history going all the way back to when Peter Jackson tried to convince a studio to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in a movie and entrust it to a filmmaker in Neil Blomkamp who had never made a movie before. That was a bad move. That was a bad move. And then eventually they pulled the plug on the movie. Never happened. Then we heard years ago that there was going to be a series. Now listen, the last I heard about the Halo series is that everything's moving forward. They've got casts. They've got, I mean, for all I know, I think they may have even started shooting the damn thing. I could be wrong about that, but from everything I understand, it's moving forward. It's going to happen. Am I excited about it? Honestly, no. I'm not tremendously excited about it. That said, that doesn't mean I'm not intrigued. Like, was I excited for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie? Hell no. Did I get a kick out of Sonic the Hedgehog movie? Yes, I did. And so, yeah, but right now, I'll be honest with you. No, it doesn't rank high on my most anticipated things I'm looking forward to on TV or anything like that. No, it's just, I have been with this Halo drama trying to bring it to the screen. And ever since that whole Peter Jackson debacle with it way back in the day. And so, it's just hard for me to get excited about it at this point. That doesn't mean it won't be great. That doesn't mean I won't enjoy it when it comes out, but I'm at a place with Halo personally that I'm just going to have to wait and see. Show me, because there's so much baggage attached to it at this point. That doesn't mean it won't be great, but I need to see that it's great before my enthusiasm level gets up very high. You know what I'm saying? Just because, again, I've just seen so much of it up until this point. So we'll see, man. We'll see. But yeah, it is coming. And listen, hey, Star Wars was around long before Halo, right? So there's that too. But no, this Halo thing is something they've tried to do long before they imagined doing a Mandalorian. But it's one of these situations where neither is copying the other. Mando is by clearly no way, shape, or form any sort of a Halo ripoff. And once they get around to making Halo, yes, you have a Master Chief who wears a helmet, but that's always been part of the lore. It's not them trying to capture or recapture something from Mandalorian. It's not them copying Mandalorian at all. It's always been part of what they did. Nor is Mandalorian copying them in the least. And I just hope that people are intelligent enough to stay away from that kind of nonsense like you're saying. So here's hoping. All right, I said that would be the last thing, but I'm going to take one more. Why not? This last one comes to us from John Campea, who writes, if the Snyder Cut has a cliffhanger ending, do you see that same hashtag release the Snyder Cut fan base demanding another Zack Snyder Justice League miniseries in the same way? This is a man who earned Batman vs. Superman, who ended, I should say, Batman vs. Superman on a pretty big cliffhanger after all. I don't know. No, there's a difference. Batman vs. Superman did not end on a cliffhanger. All right. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring ended on a cliffhanger. That was a cliffhanger. It's like, okay, there's Mordor. Let's go. And credits roll. That's a cliffhanger. Yeah, Superman being buried and the thing that's enticing, but I wouldn't really call that a cliffhanger. Like, if Batman versus Superman ended just as Doomsday came out and they were like, all right, and Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman standing there, all right, let's go fight this thing, and credits roll. That's a cliffhanger. It's like, wait a minute, what happens next? Whereas Zack Snyder thankfully did not do that with Batman vs. Superman. That movie was an ending. It was an enticing ending, but it was clearly an ending. Unlike, say, the Lord of the Rings example, or if they had ended before the Doomsday fight started. So I don't think it was a cliffhanger. No, here's the thing. There is a huge misconception out there that, Warner Brothers caved to bring Justice League, the Snyder Cut Justice League. The fans made them do it. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. No, they didn't. They're using you. They're using me. They use us all the time. All studios do. They use us. Listen, Deborah Snyder made it really clear. Zack Snyder's wife and production partner. She made it very clear in that interview the day they announced that Justice League Snyder Cut was going to come to, it didn't exist. They had to spend like $70 million to make it an actual complete thing. But Deborah Snyder said this was never going to be in theaters. This would never have come out. This was never going to see the light of day if it wasn't for HBO Max. And now that we know with the huge viewership drop-offs, now we know just how desperate HBO is. Now we know it's put a lot of things in context, not just the Snyder Cut thing, but the whole 2021 programming fiasco, the fact that they're really desperately now trying to hightail and get this Game of Thrones, spin-off series put into production, the fact of a lot of decisions, some head-scratching decisions, it's becoming clear now. They are desperate. And so they saw an opportunity. Let's use Zack Snyder and let's use all these people who are doing the hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Let's use them to bring attention to HBO Max. And listen, I don't fault Warner Brothers for doing that. I don't fault HBO Max for doing that. That's what all the studios do. Whatever your favorite studio is, they do it too. They all do it. But make no mistake, they were never going to release. They were never going to put up the money to actually finish and make a Snyder Cut. And they were certainly never going to release it. Deborah Snyder said that herself. This was never going to see the light of day. But then HBO Max came along. That provided an opportunity, and it just so happened that HBO Max is very, very desperate. And so they put up the money to finish it. This will get people talking about HBO Max. Let's use this. And they're using us, and they're using Zack Snyder. And you know what? That's what every studio does. They all do it. So let's not, point fingers at Warner, but this is what they all do. They want to make money off of us. But no, number one, Zack Snyder does not do that whole BS of ending on a big, huge cliffhanger. Like with Lord of the Rings, that's understandable because it is 3 separate books. There's no way to end Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, without it being a cliffhanger into number 2, without there being a significant cliffhanger going into number 3. It's part of one book series. There's really no other way to do that. But Zack Snyder doesn't subject his viewers to doing that. Man of Steel, ending. 300, ending. Legend of the Guardians, ending. Batman versus Superman. Yes, it had an enticing thing at the end, but an ending. He makes complete movies with open doors and strings that could lead into something else and that you can now follow into another movie, but he gives his audience complete films. He has always given his audience complete films. He makes sure, at least he tries, to give us a satisfying ending, even if still having something enticing to make us think about what could come later. So I have very little doubt, considering when he made Justice League, he was thinking he was going to make 4 or 5 more films. So I'm sure that by the time we get to the end of the Justice League miniseries on HBO Max, I'm sure there will be open doors that could have led into other things. But I also believe that Zack Snyder doesn't use his audience that way. He delivers at least what he aims to do is to deliver satisfying endings, complete films. He doesn't use one movie to try to sell you on the next movie. He wants to give you a complete experience with open doors that you can then follow later. And that's what I believe he's going to do with Justice League, the miniseries. That's what I believe he's going to do with that. Because he has that kind of respect for his audience. You may like his film, you may like Man of Steel, you may like Batman vs. Superman, you may hate those films, whatever. But what you cannot deny is that he has a very real connection to the fans that follow him. And he has always, I know a lot of people don't like Zack Snyder's films. To me, he's only ever made one bad film, and that was Sucker Punch. Other than Sucker Punch, I've liked every movie he's made. And love him or hate him, he tries to give that complete experience to his audience. And I think you got to respect that. And I expect no less from, I don't think there's any reason to believe he would change course on that in doing this. Some open doors at the end that ultimately aren't going to go anywhere. Yes. But he's not going to leave us with some BS cliffhanger. It's not like, they get to the end, they beat Steppenwolf, and then just as the movie's ending, a boom tube opens and Darkseid walks in and says, I guess I'll have to do this myself. And then you see Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, Aquaman standing shoulder to shoulder and getting ready to fight Doomsday or Darkseid, and credits roll. Zack Snyder's not going to do that. He wouldn't do that. He has too much respect for his projects. He has too much respect for his audiences. So I don't think we're going to get that kind of ending. I mean, you never know. I have no insider information about the ending of the miniseries, But I'm just saying, if you go by Zack Snyder's track record, he respects his audience. He gives them complete and satisfying endings. And I think he will do that here. But we'll have to find out. All right. Anyway, for everyone else, from Cassian and Yaz and Need Superman movie and on, do not worry, we will pick up on your questions starting in the next episode, so keep your guys' eyes open for that. But for now, that will do it for this installment of the companion video. Listen, guys, special thank you to all of you who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but number two, you supported this channel while you did it. And all of us here, thank you very much for, making it possible for all of us involved here with the channel to bring you this content on a daily basis, hours of content every day. That's because you guys support us, and thank you very, very much for that. Again, let me apologize for the service disruptions we've been having for over a week now. It's unacceptable. I'm trying to find a workaround for it. I may even up and move my studio. You guys are the first people to hear this. If I can't get this fixed, like reliably fixed, then I think I'm going to take some equipment and go to another house, set up a little temporary studio in another house where I'm going to have a reliable upstream connection to YouTube, and I'll just do my show in just a room somewhere for a couple of weeks until we move into the new place. Hopefully it won't come to that. But we'll find out. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for being here. That'll do it for me. Remember, do the four main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me. My name's John Campea, everybody, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.